Hi, this is Dr. Prashant Bharadwaj. Today's topic is the basics of managing quality. Managing quality is one of the most important tasks in today's business, whether manufacturing or delivering service. What we will discuss in this module are some of the philosophies and tools employed in managing quality. We will not be able to get into statistical quality control aspects, but we will get a flavor for some of the quality tools used. Managing quality is important in not only satisfying customers today, but also in delighting them, which is very important in a global marketplace. So let's get started on some of the principles used. The book talks about the Arnold Palmer Hospital, which delivers 13,000 babies annually. So you can do the math, a lot of babies every day. In that particular hospital, they talk about how virtually every type of quality tool is employed. Although I would not say every type of quality tool, because today managing quality is an umbrella concept, meaning there are literally dozens of quality tools that are used. But some of the more widely used tools, Kaizen or continuous improvement, empowering employees, very important in TQM, total quality management, benchmarking, just-in-time, which is in itself a separate topic that we will discuss, lean management and just-in-time management, and several quality tools, statistical quality tools. Quality and strategy. Managing quality is so critical for you to be strategically competitive. Whether you're trying to differentiate, like a Rolex watch, or you're competing on cost, whether you're a company making laptops or a retail giant like Walmart, or you are responding to changes. Quality is critical. You can be manufacturing a product in China or in Switzerland. You may be delivering financial services in New York or in Shanghai or Mumbai. Quality is extremely critical. Quality helps firms increase sales because customers will see value. They're willing to pay more. And it also reduces costs, like we will see soon. Traditionally, 40-50 years back, very few companies understood the idea of quality and quality costs. People were of the opinion that high quality came only at a high cost. Today we all know that's a myth. We can accomplish high quality at a lower cost. In fact, we will study that high quality results in low cost. And building a quality organization is not easy. It is an arduous journey, but it is gratifying. And this journey never ends. That is the whole idea of continuous improvement. So, if you come to my office, you will see a picture which you would have seen in some other places. Quality is a race without a finish line, is the slogan. So you never get complacent. You're continuously improving. You're always looking at ways to enhance the service that you're delivering. So these are some of the philosophies which we will expand upon. The book has this figure which talks about two ways quality improves profitability. You can enhance the sales because look at Apple. Look at their products. The reputation goes up. When people talk about a luxury car, we talk about Mercedes-Benz for a century almost. So that reputation is possible only with sustained quality. If people talk about Ritz-Carlton Hotel, reputation. The reputation is not because of anything other than sustained quality. And we will study in more detail how quality can reduce costs in the long run. And ultimately, by improving sales, reducing cost, profitability will improve, which is what every business wants. Defining quality is an academic exercise today. As we will see in a second, quality is a set of dimensions. But the American Society for Quality, a professional organization, defines quality as the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bears on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. Needs of who? The customer. So the definition of quality needs to be customer-centric. You may be making a Tata Nano, which many of you may know is the cheapest car in the world, which was supposed to be around $2,000 at one time. So it's approximately $3,000 or $4,000. Unimaginable for a car to cost $3,000-$4,000 in majority of the world. You cannot think of getting a new car for that amount. So whether you're talking about that highly inexpensive car or a Lamborghini, which may cost $200,000-$300,000, we are talking about quality. I don't want you to think that it is only Mercedes-Benz and a Rolex and a Ritz-Carlton are where we talk about quality. We talk about quality in a small motel. We talk about quality in Tata Nano, which is the cheapest car, or any other product or service, because each product and service is trying to satisfy the need of the customer. So you have to understand what the customer is expecting out of the product, both the stated needs as well as the implied needs. So the explicit expectations as well as the implied expectations. And a lot of companies even try to understand the latent expectations. That is, the customer is not even thinking about few things that the company is going to deliver and delight the customer. So in a nutshell, quality has to be defined from the customer's perspective. Over time, because of experts like Deming, Juran, Crosby, who we will study in a little more detail, they came up with different views of quality. User-based, better performance, more features. This is a good view of quality if you're comparing apples to apples. If you're looking at a specific model of a laptop of Dell versus HP, so you're comparing a Samsung and an Apple smartphone. Honda card with manufacturing based is where you're looking at conformance to standards, conformance to specifications. Specifications again from the perspective of the customer, not the manufacturer sitting in an ivory tower and thinking they know what the customer wants. So it is conforming to standards, but the standards should be based on the needs of the customer. Making it right the first time. That's another view of manufacturing based quality. Anybody can make good quality products given a lot of chances, given a lot of inspection and so on. But doing it right the first time is manufacturing based quality. And you will see in many companies a very important metric is first time quality. Product based specific and measurable attributes of the product. So you're looking at what is important in the product, in the service, and try to meet those attributes. Again, some repetitive stuff here. implications of quality. Company reputation will be enhanced with good quality. The perception of the products that they introduce. Employment practices will improve. People would want to work for your organization if you have good quality. Supplier relations will be better. There will be reduced liability. There will be reduced warranty when you have good quality. The probability of lawsuits will be minimal. And most importantly, like we have been discussing in this entire subject, every business is today global in its mindset because of the competition and the market. So if you want to compete in the global marketplace, you better have good quality. We will talk about ISO 9000 and other tools that you can use to assure the basic level of quality in a business. David Garvin of Harvard University came up with 8 dimensions of manufacturing quality. And this by no means is an exhaustive list of dimensions. And these are not universal either. But it gave the business world a good platform to think of quality as a set of dimensions. And what are these dimensions? If you look at a television set or an automobile, you're looking at these 8 key dimensions. And of course, there's a 9th dimension, value, which is an all-encompassing thing. So performance, the picture quality of a television set. Or if you're looking at a sports car, how fast can it go from 0 to 60 miles per hour? In how many seconds? What is the durability? How long will this product last? As long as it is maintained properly. And what is the reliability? And you know the difference. Reliability is without any problems. How long will it last? Durability is how long does it last. Reliability is without any problems. Features, without increasing the cost. How much features can you add to the product? Bells and whistles. Serviceability. How expensive is servicing? How accessible is servicing? How courteous is the service? So there are different dimensions of serviceability. Aesthetics. This is the touch and feel of the product. The color, the seats, all kinds of different things that appeal to the sense organs. Then you have conformance to specifications. There are specifications that the customer is looking for. For example, gas mileage in a car. You want to have a certain level of gas mileage. So does this product have that? Perceived quality, that is the image of the product, the branding of the product. These are all the 8 dimensions of quality. And like I said, value is an all-encompassing dimension. If you have all of these, then you're obviously creating value. And what experts recommend is, for your own business, for your own product, you need to look at what are the dimensions of quality. And later you will see there was another set of researchers who have come up with 10 dimensions of service quality. And we will get to that in a few minutes. Throughout this topic, we will touch upon different concepts. And one of the first things is the Malcom Baldrige National Quality Award. If you go back and look at economic history, you look at competitiveness, it was the 1980s when the competitiveness of the US really suffered vis-a-vis Japan. In the late 70s and early 80s, Japan was the country which was built to surpass the United States. Of course, that did not happen, but the Japanese companies really threatened not only the US companies, but companies worldwide. And the reason was good quality at an affordable cost. When during the Reagan administration, they realized that the government has to do something to raise the awareness of quality among businesses. And Malcolm Baldrige was the US Secretary of Commerce who talked about this idea of improving quality that will lead to competitiveness of the US business. Unfortunately, he died in a rodeo accident, and Ronald Reagan subsequently instituted the Quality Award, the National Quality Award, in his name, Malcolm Baldrige, National Quality Award. And what is the idea of Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award? It was not just to recognize companies which have put quality at the forefront. Definitely that is one of the objectives. Even today, every year, the companies that win the award are given the award by the president of the country. So it is a very prestigious award and recognizing leading businesses. Typically, you have no more than 2 manufacturing businesses every year, no more than 2 service businesses, and up to 2 small businesses. But the most important objective and impact of the Malcolm Baldrige Award is it helped promote TQM, or Total Quality Management practices. Companies that win this award, or even the companies that are finalists, are the best targets for benchmarking by not just the competition, but by all kinds of businesses. Why? If you look at the criteria for Malcolm Baldrige, again, this gives you only a snapshot. If you really want the entire criteria, I would call the NIST. NIST.gov is the website. If you go there, the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Maryland, they can send you the full criteria, which is a 1,000-point system for evaluating the applicants and finalists. The beauty of this criteria is it touches upon every aspect of the business, from leadership to strategic planning, as you can see, and the most important thing is results. In fact, in 1988 and even in the 90s, the Baldrige criteria was not as comprehensive. In fact, one of the companies that won the Baldrige Award went out of business a couple of years later. The problem was the Baldrige criteria did not look at the financials of the organization. It looked at only the quality and the customer satisfaction aspect. But the criteria have evolved over the years, and now it is very robust. So even if an organization does not want to compete for the Baldrige Award, they can use the criteria to self-evaluate their organization on all of these different criteria. And there are specific points. You can invite a consultant who is an expert in quality management to come in and evaluate the organization also. So the Baldrige criteria has been really helpful for organizations to elevate the importance of quality, to benchmark how well they are doing in the organization, and specifically in which categories there is deficiency so that they can improve. Some of the companies that have won, we live in the Pittsburgh area here. Medrad is an organization It's a medical device company which has won twice, which is now taken over by Bayer. And there are many other companies around the country which have won this award. But that is of less importance than the impact of Baldrige criteria on businesses in general. Another very important concept: 4 costs of quality. 30, 40 years back, until people like Phil Crosby, who wrote a book, Quality is Free, did not understand that there are specific costs of quality. People did not even look at what does it cost to have quality and what does it cost to not have quality. So people said that quality is not easy to accomplish because it is expensive. The reason they were saying that is they were focusing only on the prevention costs, reducing the potential for defects. How do you prevent quality problems? By training your employees better, by having good maintenance of your equipment, having better tools. All of these cost money. But if you're looking only at that, you're short-sighted. Yes, quality requires an investment in prevention. But in the medium to long term, because of putting emphasis on prevention, the other 3 costs will go down. What are the other 3 costs? Appraisal cost, evaluating products, parts, and services, all the supervision, the inspection that is required, statistical quality control. Even when you call a customer service number on the phone, you have all heard that your call can be monitored or recorded for quality assurance purposes. So I have seen many call centers where there is a supervisor for X number of customer service employees who is listening in randomly, who records and coaches these service providers. All of these cost money. But if you already have good training and good quality service, the emphasis and the cost pertaining to appraisal will go down. Definitely the internal failure cost will go down. That is, producing defective parts which are detected before the product goes out. Scrap, rework, repair, all of these are internal failure. Then you have the worst case scenario, external failure. The cost that you're going to incur when defects are discovered after delivery. If that happens, if the product is under warranty, you have to replace it at no extra cost, but it costs the company. Lawsuits, it's very possible. If it's a medical device or even toys, many of these things can result in external costs. Most importantly, something that you cannot easily determine if there is external failure is loss of customer goodwill. The image of the organization is going to go down. So in a nutshell, if quality improves, there is a good chance that prevention costs will be going up. But you have to keep in mind that although this happens in the short term, in the intermediate to long term, the appraisal cost, the internal failure costs, and the external costs will go down. Phil Crosby said quality is free. Quality is free. And what he meant by that is not literally. Quality costs money initially, but it pays for itself. The increase in prevention costs will be less than the decrease in appraisal, internal and external costs. That is what he means by quality is free. These are the good, bad, and ugly costs of quality. The problem in many companies is they do not look at these costs. They don't even know how much they're spending on these. So since they don't know, they don't want to put emphasis on this because they know how much this is going to cost. That is the problem. So the key is for us to understand what are the real costs of quality and put emphasis on the prevention so that the other three are reduced or practically minimized. As I said in the beginning of this course, ethics is a common theme, whether it is project management or purchasing or production management. Quality management is definitely, there is a lot of ethical aspects. Operations managers must deliver healthy, safe, quality products and services. They cannot cut corners, because it is easy to cut corners and reduce the cost to the company in the short term. But it can not only do harm to the customer, but also to the business very soon, even if the customer is not knowledgeable enough to understand that what they have received is an unsafe or poor quality product. Poor quality can risk injuries, lawsuits, recalls, regulations, so on. Organizations are judged, perceived by how they respond to problems. So I cannot sit here and be naive and say that quality is assured by every organization all the time. In spite of your best efforts, there are going to be quality problems. But how quickly can you respond? How quickly can you recover from those problems is important. Look at the Toyota example. A couple of years back, Toyota had one of the worst crises. In many of their vehicles, if you press the brake, the car accelerated. It couldn't get worse than that in an automobile. But very quickly they were able to respond, and it made very little dent in their sales. So the ability for a company to respond to these crises and problems is important. And when you're looking at quality, you're looking at all the stakeholders. You're looking at suppliers, you're looking at customers, you're looking at the employees, you're looking at the community in which you live as a business. And one of the hallmarks of total quality management is elevating the importance of the stakeholder called employee. Every CEO wants to improve the shareholders' value. Not a bad goal at all. Companies say customer is the king. Definitely true. But in addition to all of that, most important stakeholder, according to Deming and other quality gurus, is the employee. If you don't have a satisfied, empowered, and motivated and happy employee, there is no way you can assure a satisfied customer. And if you don't have a satisfied customer, you cannot satisfy the shareholder. So the most important root cause for a company to do well is an employee. So all the stakeholders need to be considered. Of course, I mentioned suppliers. International quality standards. Again, this is an introductory course. We have an entire 3-credit course in quality management. That is the beauty of this area, operations and supply chain management. Almost every chapter that we are discussing can be a 3-credit course. We have a 3-credit course in quality management, a 3-credit course in supply chain management, a 3-credit course in project management, and so on. ISO 9000, again a product of the 1980s. ISO is in the business of measuring everything uniformly around the world, whether you are looking at distance, weight, viscosity, velocity, anything. It is ideal to measure everything in the same units. Unfortunately, in the United States, we are still using the foot, pound, mile, gallon system, whereas the entire world, including Great Britain and our neighbors here, use the metric system of kilometers, liters, centimeters, so on. But going back to ISO 9000, ISO 9000 is the quality standard. It is not as tangible as measuring distance or weight, but in the 80s, when companies from different parts of the world were getting into the global marketplace, there was no baseline to say that this company has good processes that will most likely assure good quality product. So ISO 9000 came into being with 20 standards. Today it has evolved into a management practice. The idea of ISO 9000 originally was basically document everything and do as you document. Of course, in the middle, when you are documenting things, to evaluate the processes and make it more robust before you document, and then train your employees to use the documented processes. But it has evolved into much more today, and the update places greater emphasis on leadership and customer satisfaction. And if you take the quality management course, we will get into more detail about ISO 9000. But what I want you to keep in mind is ISO 9000 does not assure the best product or anything. If a company is ISO 9000 certified, that means that they have robust processes in place. And if the processes are good, the assumption is the product should be definitely acceptable. ISO 14000 is the environmental standard, and the reason you see Europe and EC is because the two of these series of ISO standards originated in Europe, but they are not exclusive to Europe. They are worldwide standards. So ISO 14000 looks at environmental standard, about environmental management. This is much more recent than ISO 9000, but somewhat on the same principles, but looking at environmental management, labeling the products properly. It's lignin free. If you go and look at albums, photo albums, you will see lignin free. So labeling it properly. Performance evaluation, auditing for environmental management. All of these are important elements of ISO 14000. TQM. Very few companies still use that term today, but it was more popular in the 80s and 90s. It has again evolved into a lot of different things. It's an umbrella concept, like I said earlier. There are a lot of philosophies and tools that can be put under the banner or umbrella of TQM. Basically, TQM is everybody all the time. Those are the two terms I want you to think. Everybody all the time. When I say everybody, every aspect of the organization, from left to right, meaning from purchasing to marketing, because they are the ones who deal with the supplier and the customer. They have to be thinking of quality. It is not just the manufacturing folks like it used to be several decades back. The marketing folks have to be thinking of quality, the accounting, the purchasing, human resources. Everybody is thinking of quality left to right. And top to bottom, not just the manufacturing or the service delivery people. It is even starting from the CEO, the top management commitment that Deming talks about is extremely important. And when do they think about this? Company-wide. All the time. It is not a TQM day or a TQM month or a week. It is continuous process. All the time, everybody in the organization is thinking of how to enhance the products and services from the perspective of the customer. So there are several tools in TQM, and the legs on which TQM stands includes the employee, the leadership, continuous improvement. All of these are important, and we'll discuss a few of these now. Some of the leaders in quality management. Historically, Deming and Juran are two Americans who, after the Second World War, was somewhat shunned by the businesses in the US, because look at the history. After 1945, US was the superpower, because all of Western Europe was recovering from the Second World War. Japan was in shambles. Most of the rest of the world was just emerging out of colonial power in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. So there was absolutely no competition to the US. So many of the tools and techniques and philosophies that Deming and Juran talked about were not important to US businesses. But the rest is history. They were invited by the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers, and Deming and Juran are credited to helping the businesses in Japan and assuring that within 2 decades after the Second World War, they were ready to bombard the entire world with good quality products at a low cost, with high variety and flexibility and agility. Only in the 80s that Deming and Juran were invited back to the US companies, and their concepts were understood by companies around the world. Deming was famous for his 14 points for management. We'll discuss a few of those. He used to conduct a lot of seminars and then talk about how important leadership is, how important employee satisfaction is, and so on. Joseph Juran, again, top management commitment. Fitness for use was his principle or the definition of quality. As long as the product is fit for use by the customer, then it is of good quality. Feigenbaum was credited to using the term total quality control. Phil Crosby, we already talked about. Quality is free. We understand that concept. He also was the first person to mention the concept of 0 defects. Today we talk about 6 Sigma, which is practically 0 defects. But Phil Crosby talked about that in the 1970s. Not that every company has 0 defects, but that should be the goal of every company. Because if you have that as the goal, then continuous improvement will become the norm in the organization. Deming's 14 points, you can read through this. He emphasizes consistency and constancy of purpose, build quality to the product, and do not depend on inspection. What happens in many companies is, oh, it's going to be inspected at the end anyway before it is sent to the customer. So the employees who are manufacturing the product, the purchasing department may not focus a lot on quality, but Deming emphasized 40 years back that quality has to be built into the product from the design phase to the production phase, the purchasing phase, understanding customer needs every place. Because he used to call inspection as autopsy or post-mortem. The product is dead at that time when you are inspecting if it is of poor quality. You cannot revive the product, just like you cannot revive the dead person in autopsy. You can just determine the cause for the death. You can just determine during inspection the quality issue, but you cannot revive the product. So what Deming is doing is putting emphasis on doing it right the first time. Long-term relationships with suppliers based on performance, trust, quality, not specifically price, continuous improvement. In many of these are important points. Drive out fear among the employees. The relationship between management and the employees should be based on trust, not management by fear. Barriers between departments. I can give you anecdotes of Deming showing how barriers can literally thwart good design of products. Barriers can really hurt the organization. So you can look at many of these things that he talks about, and the focus is here on leadership, the focus is here on employees, the focus is on the relationship between management and employees, because he firmly believed that a good relationship between management and employees is important in assuring quality. In my words, Deming was the person who brought quality from the shop floor to the boardroom. Nobody in the boardroom talked about quality until Deming made it clear that top management, the leadership of the organization, is where the idea of quality has to be deep rooted. If not, irrespective of how good the workforce is, you will not be able to assure overall quality in the long run. So Deming brought quality from the shop floor to the boardroom in a nutshell. The book talks about 7 concepts of TQM. This is not a widely accepted typology, that there are 7 concepts in TQM. There are many other concepts that I said earlier which can be under TQM, but these 7 concepts are very, very common in organizations. So let's discuss some of these in some detail. Continuous improvement. Basically, like I said earlier, quality is a race without a finish line. Kaizen is the Japanese term for continuous improvement. Slow, steady, incremental, never-ending improvements. In Kaizen, we believe a 25% solution applied 4 times is better than a 100% solution applied once. A 100% solution is re-engineering. If the company is doing very poorly, you need that re-engineering. But if there is some stability, you want to still continue with your improvements, small incremental improvements. Kaizen means good change that does not affect the employee. And the change and the improvement can be in terms of people, in terms of equipment, in terms of materials, processes, procedures, so on. And one of the continuous improvement models is called the Shewhart's PDCA model. Some people refer to it as Deming's PDCA model. It doesn't matter. But the whole idea here is plan your improvement, test the plan, that is the do. The third step is check or study is what some people refer to it. Is the plan working? If it does not work well, then you go back to plan. You don't implement, you don't act. Okay? And if the pilot, the test works well, you studied it, you checked it, then you implement the plan across the board in the organization, whatever it is. A lot of companies have Kaizen events, small improvements, Kaizen blitz they call it. And the key that I want you to understand here is it was not plan, do, check, act, 4 steps. It is a cycle. Just because you have implemented something, it doesn't end. It's a continuous cycle. You plan the next improvement. Okay. So Shewhart's PDCA model is a good one for continuous improvement. Six Sigma was a statistical tool, but today it has become a management philosophy, thanks to companies like Motorola, GE, Honeywell, and so on. Initially, it was the idea of statistical Six Sigma. So if you look at the lower and upper limits here, and if you look at the statistical normal distribution, if you had 3 sigma level of quality, then 99.74% of everything that you produced was under the acceptable limits. But if you have 99.74, look at the number of potential defects. 2,700 defects per million. And if you're producing something in mass or delivering babies, like in the Arnold Palmer Hospital example, 2,700 defects per million is a lot. You cannot accept that. So companies started looking at quality from Six Sigma perspective. Sigma here is standard deviation. And if you have Six Sigma level of quality, what that means is that 99.9997% of everything that you produce are within the acceptable limits. They are of good quality. So there is no more than 3.4 defects per million, which is practically 0 defects. So this is the origin of Six Sigma, but today Six Sigma has evolved into a structured approach to process improvement. It has become a strategy, and people refer to it as the DMAIC, D-M-A-I-C approach. And what that means is, again, similar to the PDCA cycle, but a little more evolved. Define critical outputs, identify gaps for improvement, measure. There is nothing you can manage unless you measure it. There is nothing you can measure unless you define it properly. So the first two steps are define and measure. Then you can manage. Analyze the data, improve the processes, and control the new process. And you all know from management literature, control means basically monitor. Monitor and then make sure if everything is going well, solidify the changes, the improvements. If things are not going according, then make remedial changes. So the DMAIC approach is again similar to the continuous improvement cycle, but in a more structured, define, measure, manage way. Well, today it has become a big worldwide phenomenon, Six Sigma implementation. There are people who have green belts, black belts, master black belts, and so on. And companies have champions, Six Sigma champions. So it has become a very important phenomenon for professionals in the quality field. And like I said, we have a separate couple of credit course in Six Sigma if you are interested. Employee empowerment is very important, because like Deming said, 85% of quality problems are due to process and materials. And it is not because of employees. But who can resolve those problems? Employees. So with good communication networks that include employees, open and supportive supervisors, we'll talk about this also in lean management, having high responsibility, empowerment of employees, having high morale, formal team structures, all of these are important. And as you can see here, another innovation of the 1970s or around that time is the quality circles. Quality circles were a way of empowering employees to resolve problems that are important to them in a very structured way. What the concept is, the employees are given an hour a week during company time to meet and resolve quality problems, safety problems, productivity problems, any kind of problems that they think are important. It is not that the management is giving them problems to resolve. These are problems that they perceive are important. And how do they resolve the problems? Using a lot of proven methods of brainstorming, problem solving, statistical tools. And there is always a facilitator, and the facilitator need not be the supervisor. It can be anybody in the team. And the job of the facilitator is just to hold the conversation to context in the organization of the quality circle. Usually 8 to 10 employees, they meet, and they are voluntary. Nobody is forced to be part of the quality circle. At its peak, quality circles were very well received, and there were many organizations where the quality improved because of the quality circles. But today, quality circles have evolved into a lot of other things. The important thing is it has to be done properly. The moment management says that, hey, the employees are spending an hour during company time, why don't we assign them problems that we are looking at? It defeats the purpose, because the whole idea here is empowering the employees to decide what is important for them. Benchmarking. Benchmarking is not just about benchmarking metrics. It is not just Walmart saying our inventory turns are 6 per year and that of Kmart is 8 and so on. Yeah, that is important. Looking at metrics, looking at customer satisfaction, looking at publicly available data. But it is also about best practices. A computer manufacturer can look at a retailer for order entry processes. They have nothing in common. They are not even competing. They are not even partners or suppliers, but they are benchmarking partners. All you are looking at here is the best practices that can help you within the organization to get better. You can have a manufacturing company look at Las Vegas casinos to improve the safety and security within their manufacturing companies if they are experiencing pilferage. So here we are talking about very generic kind of benchmarking. A auto manufacturer being the benchmarking target for a furniture manufacturer in terms of lean practices. So benchmarking can be as generic as that. But if you are a huge organization like General Motors, you can do internal benchmarking. If one division of your organization geographically or functionally is doing very well, you can benchmark within and see why that part of the organization is doing better, and are there practices that we can emulate in other aspects of the organization. That is benchmarking. You got to determine what to benchmark, form a team. Again, there are many steps involved and different tools that companies use in benchmarking. But the whole idea is identifying the partners, collecting the information, and taking action to match or exceed the benchmark. The ultimate goal is for you to become the benchmarking company that others will benchmark with. Again, benchmarking is not corporate espionage. It's not reverse engineering. It is a very structured approach to identifying the best practices in any field and trying to emulate that. Here is a good example of best practices for resolving customer complaints. Just in time, I'll skip this because this is a separate topic. And how is it related to quality? If you're looking at this from a practical perspective, there is absolutely no difference between JIT, TQM, Six Sigma, so on. They're all together in implementation. But if you look at it from a theoretical perspective, how is that related to quality? JIT cuts the cost of quality. JIT improves quality. Better quality means less inventory. All of these are aspects of JIT which we will discuss. Taguchi is a Japanese quality guru. He talked about quality robustness. He said there has to be a target for quality. You should not have a tolerance for quality. You should always shoot for the target value. If you're looking at a furniture item, the desktop, you should not be saying that the desktop can be 5 feet in length plus or minus 0.1 inch. The moment you say plus or minus 0.1 inch, Taguchi says that there will be a quality loss. And that loss is going to be increasing as you go beyond the target, which is 5 feet. Even though the tolerance specifications is saying it could be 5 feet plus or minus 0.1 inch. And anything 5 feet plus or minus 0.1 inch is acceptable, Taguchi is saying it should not be. What should be accepted is 5 feet. What that forces companies to do is have no tolerance, no acceptance of anything other than the target value of 5. Some of the tools of TQM, like I said, we will not get into a lot of details here. We have 7 quality tools here. One is the check sheets. Basically, if you have a set of processes and you want to check, you can use the check sheets, which all of you are familiar with. Scatter diagrams are basically looking at the relationship between two variables, the x and the y, and plot it. Whether you are looking at the shift in which you are looking at quality, so you can see if there is a difference between the first shift and the second shift in terms of quality. If you are looking at a particular supplier's products, whether you are looking at different machines and then plotting the quality, you are looking at scatter diagram where you are looking at quality on the y-axis and a particular independent variable on the x-axis. Cause and effect diagrams, also called as fishbone diagrams or Ishikawa diagrams, named after the person, the Japanese quality guru Ishikawa. And the idea in the cause and effect diagrams is whenever you have a quality problem, the effect, you go back and trace the root causes of the problem. And when you plot this effects versus the causes and the categories of causes, the categories of the causes can be attributed to the employee, to the equipment, to the supplier, on and on, to management. So when you are done with this diagram, which is basically by brainstorming, you will see that it will look like a fishbone. That's the reason it's called a fishbone diagram. Pareto charts is sort of a subsequent step of cause and effect. In the cause and effect diagram, you literally enumerate all the causes for the quality problems. But not all causes are created equally. There are some dominant causes and some trivial causes. So the Pareto analysis will look at the dominant causes. And you all know the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 principle. Pareto was an economist in the 19th century Milan, and who determined what we all know today, that wealth is concentrated among a small percentage of people. And he talked about the vital few and the trivial many. That concept is used in inventory control, quality control, sales management, so on. So here we are talking about 80% of the quality problems are due to 20% of the causes. So you are better off identifying those 20% of the causes and focusing on them and trying to eliminate them. Pareto charts help in that. Flow charts go from the start to finish. What are the steps and processes involved in producing the product or delivering the service? In lean management, we'll talk about value stream mapping and value stream management. So flow chart will help you map the entire process. Histogram, you know it from high school. Statistical process control chart, we will not get a chance to look at that. This will tell if the process is in control or not. Meaning, if the process is in control, it means the variations in the process is only due to random causes. You can't do much. But if the process is out of control, you know that there is an assignable cause for the variation. That cause which you can assign is to be determined. But the SPC charts will tell you when the process is out of control. And again, if you take a quality class, you will discuss the X bar R charts, the P charts, NP charts, and so on. Like I said, if you take the class in quality, we'll discuss this in more detail. There are X bar R charts which are for variables, where you are measuring weight, speed, height, strength, that anything that can be measured. Whereas If you're looking at acceptable, not acceptable, good, bad, accept, reject, yes, no, we are talking about attributes. Then we use P charts. And that is what this different statistical techniques is talking about. TQM and services. Definitely it is more difficult to quantify quality in service industry, but whether you are looking at healthcare or education or a restaurant, we all know that we measure quality all the time. At the end of every course, I get a student evaluation done. And that student evaluation will look at every aspect of my teaching, from professionalism to communication to knowledge of the subject matter, the delivery, everything. There are 21 things that we ask of every student. So you can measure quality in services, but it is a little more difficult. And it depends on the intangible expectations of the customers. The important thing in service quality is exceptions will occur. How quickly can you recover is important. Airline industry, irrespective of the best efforts of the airline industry, there are going to be delays because it's such a industry dependent on so many factors. But whenever there is a delay, there is a snowball effect in the airline industry for the passenger. So how quickly can they recover from problems? That is important in service quality. This is a nice picture about UPS, United Parcel Service, where they have the perception of the delivery person, and look at how detailed that they look at to assure not only the perception but also the productivity and quality of the delivery. As I said earlier, just like David Garvin came up with 8 dimensions of manufacturing quality, researchers like Parashuraman, Zaitamal, and Berry, they came up with 10 aspects of service quality: reliability, how responsive, how credible, do as you say, security, putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, competence, whether you are a lawyer or a professor or a CPA, accountant, how accessible, courtesy important, communication, both in terms of the ease of communication, but also communicating to a no-wise customer to an expert customer. You have to be able to do that. And there are tangible aspects in the service sector also, which you have to understand and make sure you deliver on that dimension too. Many researchers have reduced that to what we call as RATER, R-A-T-E-R, reliability, assurance, tangibles, empathy, and responsiveness as the 5 dimensions. But the key is whether you are a restaurant or airline or a educational institution or a hospital, it is up to you to determine what is service quality in your industry, in your business, and measure it and then manage it. Service recovery strategy. This is from Marriott's Learn routine. Like I said, managers should have a plan when services fail, whether it is hotel, airline, car rental, so on. So Marriott's one is what is picked up by the book. It's called the Learn. Listen to the customer, empathize with the customer, apologize to the customer, react and notify so that in the future, if such a thing recurs, you know what to do. So again, one simple example of service recovery. In a nutshell, we have understood the importance of quality, some of the basics of tools and philosophies of quality management, and the ideas of some quality gurus. Thank you.